Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I search in the lines of the $1.6 billion which were allocated or which have been allocated by the Minister for Finance for the benefits to the people of Vieux-Fort North and the benefits to the people of St. Lucia. But just to digress briefly, Mr. Speaker, I want to tell members opposite that the people of Vieux-Fort North have been tried and tested, and our people cannot be bought, and they will not be bought. The people of Vieux-Fort North, Mr. Speaker, have been tried and tested. We've been through our difficulties, and throughout the pain and throughout the challenges, we remain a proud people. Mr. Speaker, as I preface the estimates of revenue and expenditure, I want to remind members of this Honorable House that the people of Vieux-Fort North have a very long history with things that have been done to them by the United Workers' Party, poles that have been planted and removed, all kinds of things that have been done, and Mr. Speaker, they were never bought and will not be bought. I stand here, Mr. Speaker, to represent the youth who are unemployed, the young males, the young females. I stand here to scrutinize the estimates and to search in the pages of the estimates for what the banana farmers of Vieux-Fort North, of Bellevue, of Grace, of Vauen, Vieillit, the banana farmers of the areas in Pierrot, the banana farmers who are at Canals. Mr. Speaker, I will search in the pages of the estimates for opportunities for our construction workers in Vieux-Fort North, the elderly, those who lost their jobs because of the COVID-19 pandemic, the differently abled. I will search in the pages of the estimates to speak to something in sports for our people, our small business people. And Mr. Speaker, I have come to search to see if this government cultivated a little soul with care for people at its center. And so, Mr. Speaker, when the Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, member for Miku South, started, he indicated that his government is working on developing and ensuring that the resilience of our people come to the fore, more resilient people. Mr. Speaker, the estimates of revenue and expenditure is a plain glass through which we see not a resilient nation, but a divided nation with two St. Lucias, one St. Lucia where resources are allocated to continue or start projects worth millions, 20 million, 40, $100 million, for a few to benefit from the largesse. And we see another St. Lucia through the pages of the estimates where the majority of people are not considered by an uncaring government. And the Minister for Finance in his presentation sheds tears when he mentions the same public servants who were put aside when he used his foreign consulting firm to prepare the budget at one point in time. Not focused on caring for people. But Mr. Speaker, the estimates of revenue and expenditure also remind me that this government has but 11 weeks to the end of the 5-year term. 11 weeks. Yes, 11 weeks. And so as I go through the pages, Mr. Speaker, and the various heads, I will be reminded of this, that it's 11 weeks to D-Day. COVID-19 and our current situation, Mr. Speaker, Head 53, Health and Wellness. Permit me, Mr. Speaker, to tell the nurses, the doctors through you and other workers at the health and wellness centers and the community centers, the community health aides in from Vieux Fort North, or those who work in Vieux Fort North, that page 589 of the estimates lists emergency response to COVID-19 as a project, as the project title for the COVID-19 response. So on page 589, Mr. Speaker, 587, head 53, we have the COVID-19 response as a project title. There is $31 million, $31,179,630 allocated to the COVID-19 response. My colleague earlier, Mr. Speaker, has spoken about the consulting services and commissions on page 452 of the estimates. And the leader of the opposition, my colleague and leader, indicated that it is alarming that when we are going through so much, there is this increase in consulting services. And he asked for clarification, Mr. Speaker. I searched the other ministry which deals with health matters, and on page 593, head 56, I note the $12 million allocation to the St. Jude reconstruction project. And under head 53, the commissioning of the Owen King EU Hospital. Another $12,985,714. Mr. Speaker, with 11 weeks to go to the end of the 5-year term, so many questions remain about the St. Jude Hospital reconstruction project. I will not say much now because, Mr. Speaker, the minister with responsibility for that particular project is often quoted as saying that that project, the St. Jude Hospital Rehabilitation Project, will be completed by the end of the 5-year term. So I am no guard there. He still has 11 weeks. So I'm not going to stand here to say that all of the patients and the doctors from the stadium, I will not say today that by June 6, 2021, they will not be in there. I will never say that, Mr. Speaker. But what I know, Mr. Speaker, is that during my visit to this site a couple of days ago, it will take 1 million hands to do just that in 11 weeks. So maybe there are thousands of workers waiting who will land in St. Lucia and do all of the electrical work, complete the cladding, and so forth, and so forth. And so, Mr. Speaker, head 53 relates to health, and since the project did not have subcategories or subheadings, the project, Mr. Speaker, meaning the COVID-19, the emergency response COVID-19, I need to ask many questions in relation to that particular item. But, Mr. Speaker, when I said a while ago that I searched for the soul of this government in the Prime Minister's presentation, I was disappointed very, very soon in his presentation because it is the context within which people speak and the words that they use. These tell you something about how they view St. Lucians and how they view us. When the Prime Minister in his presentation, Mr. Speaker, when he spoke about COVID-19 and the situation in St. Lucia, he said, in relation to the deaths, he used the word just twice. The member for Miku South based on that, indicated to me, Mr. Speaker, that his tears were not genuine. Just 55 dead. Just 4,000 infected. Mr. Speaker, le mwen gade se li mou a gouvernement présenté pour divers sujets yo kay dépenser l'argent en pays Saint-Lucie. En anglais, nous avons ça Estimates of Revenue and Expenditure. Là, nous différents chapitres et différents côtés que le gouvernement a expliqué qui ça a dépensé l'argent pour. Avec une de ces premières places là, c'est santé. Avec le premier ministre l'a dit, ça fait COVID-19 là, il a dépensé en haut 21 millions de dollars à ça fait COVID-19 là. La paternité j'ai explication, mais manière le premier ministre l'a parlé, il a expliqué combien de monde qui mort. Ça me prend, Mr. Speaker, c'est à quoi dit, ça c'est un bagage à la vidéo. Il dit, en a 55 personnes qui morts. On a 4000 personnes qui sont affectés. Mr. Speaker, moi trouve manière, j'ai manière premier ministre là qui a parlé. Ou ka ouais qui later, là il a fait à quoi dit qu'il a pleuré, là il a mentionné non. Ça nous croit en anglais, public servant, servant civil. Mais là il a parlé à les gens qui morts avec Covid. Ou pas qu'à trouver une qualité de compassion ça là. C'est comme ça, moi ouais. Ma savent manière, l'autre monde ouais. Mr. Speaker, the member for Miko South.
Mr. Speaker, on a point.
Mr. Speaker.
Honorable member. Honorable member.
Stopping the Creole again.
Honorable member.
The member is misquoting, and secondly, is imputing improper motive to another member of the House. The statement made was in relation to numbers just over 50, not downplaying the deaths, the number of deaths, but not quoting the exact number and indicating that in the count it was just over a certain amount.
51.
So it could be 51, 52, 53, 54. I think that is an injustice, and that is imparting or imputing improper motive, because the statement is a written statement that is very clear. And there twice the just was said in relation to just over 4,000 people who have contracted, not saying that the just is that it did not matter. And that is what the member for Vieux-Fort North is saying.
Honorable member, the first thing I would have asked you is to identify the pages for me. Honorable, that's right. Honorable member, honorable members. I needed you to just indicate. I would have asked you for that because it's the way it is resonating to me. But and that is why I was spinning through the copy of the speech that I was given to find the exact quotation. So if you can at least indicate to me what part of the PM's presentation Then I could then, can you recall?
Mr. Speaker, the PM did not circulate his presentation, and the member for Castries Southeast admitted that the PM said just over.
But my only concern, or the way you seem to be suggesting it, you said that that is what you're getting out of it. I do not want you to give the impression that the Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, has no compassion to, or is not showing any care for the persons that have lost their lives or have contracted COVID. But be careful so that you do not give that impression, and so give the impression that the Prime Minister has other motives when he says, or when he uses the word just, the word just. But if you're going to make reference to the Prime Minister's presentation, you need to be a little more specific as to the quotation, so that at least I could follow you. But continue.
Mr. Speaker, I will not go down the road of assessing the Prime Minister, the level of the Prime Minister's compassion, and therefore I will move on. All I want to establish is that the Prime Minister said just over 50. The number of deaths is an absolute number. How do we have 55 deaths and somebody says just over something, as if it's a continuum?
Honorable member, now that statement is wrong.
Just over, what does that mean?
No, honorable member. The English language allows you to use words to describe situation and circumstances without being specific as to the number. So do not try to the fact that he didn't give the exact number, do not use that to say he does not in any way, I don't know what you're trying to indicate, but do not use it to give any other reason than that of the Prime Minister, because the English language allows us to use other words without saying this specific number, but to give something close enough to what the actuality is. Continue.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I will repeat that the Prime Minister said just over 50, and when you are dealing with human beings and people, just over to me doesn't cut it. 55 people have died, and I believe, Mr. Speaker, that when politicians and members of parliament are dealing with these situations, when you say just over 50 people have died, 55 people have died. And if I have said anything that is not factual, let me know, please. Because, Mr. Speaker, I don't understand. Just over 50? 55 people have died. And what I'm saying is, the Prime Minister's impression does not give us the facts. And that is what I'm saying. He did not say 55, just over 55, just over 4,000. And anyway, Mr. Speaker, the silence on the deaths, the silence and the actions on the deaths is telling, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am still on head 53. I wish I had seen, Mr. Speaker, a line or lines that describe the various activities under the COVID-19 project. As far as I'm concerned, Mr. Speaker, this COVID-19 disaster, even up to now, when we are discussing the estimates of revenue and expenditure, this is not taking center stage as far as I'm concerned, Mr. Speaker. When you look at the estimates, all you have is a COVID-19 emergency response on page 587. I wish, Mr. Speaker, that I had seen a line which describes what the government would spend in rapid tests. I wish I had seen a line in head 53, Mr. Speaker, which described the cost of the vaccines. I wish I had seen a line which would describe the cost for additional personnel. And I wish I had seen a line which would describe the cost for a state isolation and quarantine facility in the south of the island. I wish I had seen a line, Mr. Speaker, for additional community health aides to assist with the fight against COVID-19. What I'm saying, Mr. Speaker, Head 53 on the health, the COVID-19 emergency response is a continuing disaster which is not being treated with the urgency that it deserves. Families are hurting all around St. Lucia, and the stories that are coming from our hospitals and healthcare facilities leave much to be desired, Mr. Speaker. Under Head 53, it is clear, Mr. Speaker, that the allocations, in my view, do not address the seriousness of the COVID disaster which we are facing. Doctors are frustrated, nurses are burnt out, community health aides, these people have additional work to do, and the COVID-19 disaster has obviously placed additional pressures on them, and I do not see in the estimates on the Head 53 any reflection that the government is willing to give them or planning to give them some reprieve. Mr. Speaker, I call for a specific provision for community health aides. Obviously, you can continue to help with the monitoring of the COVID-19 pandemic. Head 53 still, Mr. Speaker, health. This is so important, Mr. Speaker, that our doctors of the St. Lucia Medical and Dental Association continue to express their concern. Mr. Speaker, around the 19th of February, there were 23 deaths. Between February 19th and March 17th, we have recorded 55 deaths. With all of the masterful management and all of the management of the economy and all of that.
Mr. Speaker,
What?
again, the honorable member is misleading the House. He gave the numbers for one time period, and then he said from that time period to the other time period, we've had 55. Yet still he's saying the total is 55. He said up to whatever date we had 23 deaths. Then he said from that date to now, we've had 55 deaths. What is he saying?
Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Member, I'm not ruling on the objection made here, but we've ventilated the COVID arguments one way or the other. But you need to, if you're going to make the COVID argument, you need to bring it closer to the estimates. But continue. But with reference to what the member is saying, you give the impression that if there's more than 55. Continue.
Mr. Speaker, if I am not to speak about COVID under Head 53, please let me know. Because it's very obvious, Mr. Speaker, that I am speaking under Head 53, and there is the COVID, the emergency. Head 53, Mr. Speaker, the emergency response, COVID-19, is a project title under that head. Mr. Speaker, the doctors continue to say that if more provisions are not made in the estimates, or if more provisions are not made, we may have, in a period of time, many more deaths than we have now. The doctors are saying, Mr. Speaker, if more provisions are not made by the government, and obviously that refers to the estimates, over a 4-week period, we may have an average of 400 people who need hospitalization. things, Mr. Speaker, do not cause us and the government to change the way in which we react to the COVID-19 pandemic. Even when a member is dealing with it in Parliament, Mr. Speaker, in the constituency of Vieux North, we have had fatalities, Mr. Speaker. And if as parliamentary representative I cannot focus on COVID-19, the major disaster that we are facing now, what is the sense? The biggest disaster we have now in this country, affecting my constituency too. And people are dying. Mr. Speaker, the doctors are saying that if the government does not pay attention and change the way it's dealing with this, and if there is not more emphasis on it, we are going to have serious problems. And the vaccination is important, Mr. Speaker, although I said earlier that there is no line item in the estimates and the Minister for Finance may give explanations. But the experts are saying, Mr. Speaker, from the United States that who knows, there may be a fourth wave. And this government, even in the current estimates, this government does not demonstrate that it's taking this COVID-19 matter as seriously as it should. Mr. Speaker, on the social services, head 51, Mr. Speaker, line 0086, page 583. Local government community projects, and there's an allocation of 750,000, Mr. Speaker. I assume that these programs are to be handled by the local government councils, because it says local government community projects. These local government community projects so far, Mr. Speaker, in the constituency of Vieux North, these projects have no scrutiny because the government, through the relevant department, Mr. Speaker, refuses to even consider the nomination of the elected parliamentarian to the local government council. And so there's an allocation of 750,000. And when I raised the matter, Mr. Speaker, I called the ministry. When I did not get a resolution to it, I wrote a formal letter to the ministry with the name of my nominee, and to date, there has been no acknowledgement of this letter, and the Vieux North Constituency Council continues to meet and hold meetings and have activities without a representative of the parliamentary representative as prescribed by law. It's not as if I didn't do anything about it. I wrote a letter. And so what has been happening, Mr. Speaker, and what may continue to happen on the head 51, line 0086, page 583, is that the local government council in Vieux North, its chairman and the current members will continue to act outside of the provisions of the law which guide the operations and selection of council representatives. And so if part of this $750,000, Mr. Speaker, which is on page 583, line 0086, head 51, no minutes are sent to me, and therefore, as parliamentary representative, I have no way of knowing what's happening in the council. No minutes are sent to me, Mr. Speaker, no invitations to meetings, no reports from the council. In fact, the Vieux North Constituency Council is operating as a partisan political arm of the United Workers' Party in Vieux North. The chairman of the council and the council, that is what's happening. We have the pictures to prove it. So, Mr. Speaker, head 51, line 0086, page 583, with the $750,000 allocation, Mr. Speaker, you can well imagine what is happening, and the people of Vieux Fort North, as I have said before, cannot be bought. But we know what is happening. So, since I'm being scrutinized so much, Mr. Speaker, can I assume that since the council is acting as a partisan political organ, that they will continue to give the candidate of the United Workers' Party, as they have been doing, access to taxpayer resources for the election campaign? Stand on a point of order, as is your habit. And so, Mr. Speaker, through you, I want to say to you, Mr. Speaker, that Head 41 impacts the people of Vieux Fort North. Head 41. The stimulation of the economy through agriculture, fisheries, and so on. Head 41. My colleague from Dennery North, Mr. Speaker, has spoken about the $2.6 million for the banana improvement project. I've done this before, Mr. Speaker, and to tell the truth, Mr. Speaker, in the debate on these estimates, I don't have all of the 15 minutes which I spent before to debate bananas. This government has 11 more weeks, and the banana farmers of this country, the farmers of this country, have already decided their fate in relation to bananas and what they promised the farmers of St. Lucia. I don't have to debate it for them. They said there will be 40,000 tons of bananas under Head 41, Mr. Speaker. 40,000 to 60,000 tons of bananas. That is what they said. The joke about bananas to France has morphed, Mr. Speaker, into bananas to Miami. 10 containers of bananas a week to Miami. Miami. Wait for the announcement. So just before elections last year, I'm on the Head 41. Just before elections last year, it was bananas to France. Ils ont mis tout arrangement pour voir figue en France. J'ai toujours pas yon gwen figue zale. Today, Mr. Speaker, 11 weeks before the end of the 5-year term, 11 weeks. And again, I will not say bananas will not go to France, because they might stand on a point of order and say I'm misleading the House. So they have 11 weeks to send the bananas to France. But meanwhile, they are going around the farms telling farmers that they have a market in Miami and 10 containers of bananas a week will go to Miami. Yes, that is true. So we are waiting for the announcement of bananas to Miami. So under Head 41, Mr. Speaker, the money which they have spent on bananas, up to now, all of the money that they have spent on bananas, and all of the signals that they showed with the Prime Minister driving a van with FAR 15, I wonder how the ministry was able to process that the Prime Minister or whoever was driving the van for him is a farmer, through all of the concessions to have FAR 15. All of this. And up to now, Mr. Speaker, Head 41, up to now, Head 41, Mr. Speaker, they cannot export more bananas than we did when we were there. J'ai toujours, Mr. Speaker, j'ai toujours, gouvernement ça là porte pourquoi exporter plus figue passer les nouti là. Comme ça, yo koye ces femmes. Mr. Speaker, this thing about bananas to France is still a bluff, and the government. This thing about bananas to France, Mr. Speaker, is still a bluff, and they're trying to bluff the farmers again with bananas to Miami. In 2017, 2018, they said that there was a 200% in banana exports, and that was not true. So, Mr. Speaker, they are not caring for the banana farmers of this country. They misled the banana farmers of this country with their promises. And for this one, they cannot blame COVID-19. The member for Babuno cannot come to say it's because of COVID-19 he can't send the bananas to France. Instead, Mr. Speaker, he speaks about long fingers and short fingers. On the head 41, the member for Babuno, the Minister for Agriculture, Mr. Speaker, indicated in his debate that we only gave support to Black Sigatoka. But the farmers know the truth. So I'm not spending any 5 minutes talking about what we gave the farmers. And even though you said we only gave support for Black Sigatoka, we must have been doing something right. Because up to now, you cannot export more bananas than we did when we were in office. Up to now. So if that was a bad thing that we did, we must have been doing something good. You have all the knowledge and all the expertise and everything. You came in with endless bravado. Kofigla, from Africa, Souffle, Abao, Winfrey Chalet, everything mash up under this Minister for Agriculture and the Prime Minister who said he was an agriculture Prime Minister who believes that cocoa is a root crop. Mr. Speaker, the farmers of Bellevue, the Prime Minister said cocoa is a root crop.
Honorable Member, do not take your presentation beyond the estimate.
Mr. Speaker, head 41, the farmers of Bellevue, Grace, Pierrot, and Canals are not better off today, Mr. Speaker, because of the allocations, the continuous allocations on the head 41 over the years. The farmers are not better off today. And this government has 11 weeks to make the farmers better off. I'm still not saying you can't do it, because you can do everything. 11 weeks. The farmers have made less money in bananas. They do not care. The member, Mr. Speaker, the Minister for Agriculture, has not demonstrated that he cares about the banana farmers. On the head 41 again, Mr. Speaker, the minister spoke about having discussions with supermarkets. And listen to that. They're still talking about with supermarkets, and they're still talking about fingers. Can you believe that, Mr. Speaker? If the member for Babuno was not an old farmer and so on, but he's an old farmer, and old farmers have a certain reputation. And so if somebody is telling him to say that, he should not destroy our old farmer tradition and our old, he's an old farmer and I'm an old farmer too. But stop talking about fingers and that kind of thing. Poor performance, don't hide poor performance in the banana sector behind fingers. What have long fingers and short fingers? Mr. Speaker, on the head 41, the member spoke about the NFTO, and that itself is a whole story. How can a government, Mr. Speaker, in my view, hold an organization to ransom, Mr. Speaker, if they do not get the chairmanship of that organization, a democratic organization? And so, Mr. Speaker, Kimanye, gouvernement pavle de NFTO, si yo pa ni chairmanship la. Ekse muna ale yo teni eleksyon yo, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, si se muna teni eleksyon yo, ek yo choose chairman yo, gouvernement di yo pa ka bay yo l'argent si yo pa jwen chairman nan. Mr. Speaker, ça c'est bagay coaché. Ça c'est bagay coaché. That's only the work of a bully. And no government should be a bully to the farmers of this country. Mr. Speaker, on the head 41, I would have loved to see the regional exporters get some support. The regional demand is about 9,000 cartons of bananas and about 500 cartons of plantain, Mr. Speaker. In all of this COVID-19, scenario, if we have the regional exporters, we'll see more plantains going out, more regional exports in bananas. Give them some help. In the allocations, Mr. Speaker, we should give them some assistance. There are regional exporters in my constituency, some in Miku, and so on, Mr. Speaker. And they have done quite a bit to assist the farmers, earning like $3.4 million annually. A lot. Mr. Speaker, the local market for bananas, I don't see any specific allocation for this. And Mr. Speaker, that is something which requires attention. I have said continuously, and as minister, I work towards changing that we work so hard to plant bananas and have the best bananas going to England, and the British people are eating the best smooth bananas, and when you pass on the streets of St. Lucia, you don't see the best smooth bananas being eaten by St. Lucians. We tried very hard, Mr. Speaker, when I was minister, to do this. And in this COVID-19 environment, Mr. Speaker, here is an opportunity also to assist those people who are selling ripe bananas in St. Lucia, those people who have ripening rooms and chillers, and give them assistance so that not only for good nutrition, but we have an expansion of the local market of ripe bananas in St. Lucia. In infrastructure, Mr. Speaker, tax revenue can be found on the table, Summary of Recurrent Revenue and Expenditure, Roman numeral 5. Tax revenue, Mr. Speaker, is related to head 43, infrastructure. The tax on gas is also taken, Mr. Speaker, from the money of people who come from J4 North. The gas tax, Mr. Speaker, and again, I'm speaking to head 43, and also the Summary of Recurrent Revenue and Expenditure, on page Roman numeral 5. Janvier for North can pay gas tax too. So we can debate as politicians on what we didn't do and what that one did and what that one didn't do. But when the people of J4 North pay gas taxes, they expect the government to do what they said they would do for them with the gas taxes. So, Mr. Speaker, the people of Bellevue also pay for road tax. The people of VSL and Grace and Bamboo and other areas, Vigé, these people also pay gas taxes. So don't hold them to their throats and ransom because you believe you will pull all stops to remove Moses Baptiste from J4 North, an impossible task. Give the people what they are paying the gas tax for. I continue to be thankful, Mr. Speaker. On the head 43, I continue to be thankful to the government and people of Taiwan who assisted us with construction of many community roads, concrete roads. And, Mr. Speaker, I was hoping as parliamentary representative that we would be engaged with the constituency development project so that we can continue these roads. I'm thankful that we were able to do the road at Montcalm to the Plainfield through the BAM, roads at Bellevue, Grace, Vigé, the government of St. Lucia, the Opicon to Bellevue Road, which included a road in front of the Piero Church going to the Piero Combined School. But, Mr. Speaker, clearly on the head 43, the people of J4 North want their gas tax to work for them. I pas ça, Mr. Speaker, parce que c'est mouna parlement. Yo de koumwe. I pas ça, because of ça, yo pas qu'à faire ça, yo qu'à prendre l'argent taxe, janvier for North en gas. Yo pas qu'à aider ces mouna, ces chimères, parce que yo dit, yo ni pour tirer me là. Yo me dit, oh, Mr. Speaker, we veille. In fact, you are punishing the 6 of us and the people, you are punishing the people who vote in these constituencies. Still on the head 43, Mr. Speaker, in that particular ministry, we have been calling for lights for a very long time. It was explained that the lights were not in St. Lucia for the last 4 years to add to those which we placed when we were in government. I did write to the ministry, Mr. Speaker, with a list of requests. And last month, I noticed a few of the lights being placed. I want to tell the people of J4 North through you, Mr. Speaker, that I will continue to liaise with the ministry to do the best I can to ensure that they put the lights which we requested. So some of the lights have been placed, some of the lights which I requested, and I am happy, Mr. Speaker, this is one of the few times or 2 times when someone told me, Mr. Musa, you vin me light lai, acti Mr. Agi vin me light la di, c'est un light où Mr. Musa ou m'a dit combien temps parce que meni let la. Maybe there is hope, Mr. Speaker. there is hope. Mr. Speaker, proud. Head 48, 11 more weeks. Head 48, Mr. Speaker. Head 48, proud. Line 0053, proud phase 3. And the history of proud, Mr. Speaker, is well known in VA4 North. I continue, Mr. Speaker, to plead with Invest St. Lucia in relation to the cost of the lots for the people of Grace and Pierrot, and so on, Mr. Speaker. And I look forward to that project continuing. Puitea ki sa moun ka kouye NDC over Invest St. Lucia Pierrot, Mr. Speaker, puitea te sa la toche. Puitea te a toche, espoma pou moun ki ka wete a lese te a pou an shaitan. And Mr. Speaker, I've said here in the House before, I don't have any problem with rationalization. Different governments have done rationalization. But we are having some challenges, Mr. Speaker. When you have large families, and the head of the household, yes, gets the right to purchase the land, and there are other children who can't afford to purchase additional lands that are surveyed, and they are having some challenges. So I continue to plead for the people on the head 48 that they get access to that. On the head 41, Mr. Speaker, water resources. And at this time, Mr. Speaker, I wish to thank the government of Taiwan again for the assistance which they gave to us when we were in government in funding the Fonkapesh water supply project. That Fonkapesh water supply project, Mr. Speaker, has had a lot of political twists and turns. And all I am happy about is the fact that people will get water. That is all I'm thankful for. The history of the project is well known. The history of the project is well known. And I am not in the business of saying whose project and that project. On election day, we will find out. We will find out. I want, Mr. Speaker, to also thank the chairman of WASCO, who occasionally calls me to speak about the project. I want to thank the people, the staff of WASCO, who in 2017, 2018, again toured the area with me as we continued this project. Mr. Speaker, the Vieux-Fort Water Redevelopment Project continues, and it is another project which is going across governments. I want to tell the people of VA4 North that this project, it was always intended, Mr. Speaker, for them to benefit from this Vieux-Fort Water Redevelopment Project, and I am hoping that when we get into government, we will complete this project and they will see the benefits. Mr. Speaker, the Youth and Sports Head 54, the National Sporting Infrastructure Development. Lights were placed on the Grace playing field, Mr. Speaker. As I am told, lights removed from the Dennery playing field and they were placed on the Grace playing field. Again, Mr. Speaker, I am not one to debate if the young people of Grace and Vieux-Fort North will benefit from the lights. I am happy for that. It doesn't matter, Mr. Speaker, if as parliamentary representative they did not invite me to the thing, to the opening. That's going to be dealt with in the elections. But I am just pleased that the young people can play when COVID is over. I am disappointed, Mr. Speaker, that the court at Bellevue, when we were in government, we placed lights on the court and everything, and during this term of government, the lights are in disrepair, and the young people, not even the meter is on the board. So, Mr. Speaker, I wish to plead with the Ministry of Sports to assist the young people there, because the lights were working, there were games and everything at Bellevue. C'est light là nous mettons les côtes là, la teni comme facilité avec activité qu'a fait les côtes Bellevue. Avec les gouvernements sans tout à pouvoir, il pas fait pièce maintenance laisser light là. C'est light là qu'a panne avec chic mitaille au point, avec me demander gouvernement pour ranger faciliter cela parce que là, il était à travail. Mr. Speaker, Head 46 is also very important. And with COVID-19 and what may happen in the future with COVID-19, it is important, Mr. Speaker, for us to move into the area of assistance to artists and dramatists and people in the creative industries at a different level. We must assist them to go into internet-based productions and reach the markets, because although we are vaccinating people and so on, the situation may not get back to normal as quickly as we want to. Because I'm plaidé pour ces gens qui ont théâtre, ces gens qui ont la rose, ces gens qui ont joué tabou. Although yo pas content de parler de là, et parti en vieux fonof, pas content de jouer tabou aussi. Mais en gouyo, commence à battre la tête yo, les vieux fonof. So Mr. Speaker, I want to say that we need to move in that direction. As Member of Parliament, Mr. Speaker, I have a deep interest in the arts and in culture and so on. So much so, Mr. Speaker, that I am proud to say that we have published an anthology of poems, of children's poems from Vieux Fort North, and that anthology was published last year, and there'll be more anthologies. That's the kind of development we have in Vieux Fort North. Concrete, but also human development. And Mr. Speaker, that kind of thing will continue. And so, Mr. Speaker, while members opposite will do their politics and debate their politics, and we know in Vieux Fort North who they are, we know how they operate. We know, Mr. Speaker, that they cannot buy us. But the presentation of estimates, the estimates of revenue and expenditure, do not leave much to be desired. What I'm telling the people of Vieux Fort North, Mr. Speaker, is that I don't see in the estimates items that will redound to their benefit. In the next 11 weeks, as we have seen over the last few weeks, they will make you believe, Mr. Speaker, in Vieux Fort North, that they have certainly found some kind of fountain. But, Mr. Speaker, we all have seen that this government has not shown that it's a caring government. Look at the fishers on the Head 41, Mr. Speaker. There is no mention of fisheries infrastructure. I see things in the media about a floating jetty for Miku. And when they're talking about what our government did with them, we built a jetty in Miku North at Prale and a fish landing facility. We did the same for Savants Bay. But I haven't seen enough assistance to the fishers. On the Head 41, Mr. Speaker, they spoke about, I heard the member for Choiseul Saltibus speaking about CMOS. And Mr. Speaker, it's another proud moment for me, for the people of Vieux Fort North. For the first time, we built a fish landing facility at Savants Bay, and it's being used, Mr. Speaker, sir, for CMOS farming, the CMOS cultivation, and I am hoping that even more young people will benefit from this bit of infrastructure which we built. And again, Mr. Speaker...
Honorable member, you have 5 minutes in which to complete your presentation.
Thank you. And again, Mr. Speaker, I wish to thank the government and people of Taiwan during our term in government who funded our fish landing facility for $1.1 million, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you will always get politicians telling you about you didn't finish this and you didn't finish that. Every government, Mr. Speaker, will leave things undone. So I want you to finish St. Jude in 11 weeks. I want you to get bananas to France in 11 weeks. I want you to get bananas to Miami in 11 weeks. But I want to say to the people of Vieux Fort North, Mr. Speaker, that we are a proud people. I want to thank them for their support. The people of Bellevue, all the communities in Bellevue, all the communities in Grace, all the communities in Pierrot, Vigée, Kako, Savans, and the kind of work we have done together, Mr. Speaker. The kind of work we have done together. And even though, Mr. Speaker, as parliamentary representative, they ignore the 6 of us, and they ignore us and do not allow us to participate in the projects that directly benefit our constituency, and they are using them for political purposes right now, our people know the difference. And I have confidence in the people of Vieux Fort North, Mr. Speaker. I look forward to continuing to represent them, and I look forward to representing them in a government which is a caring government, a government headed by the member for Castries East, Honorable Philip J. Pierre, a caring man, a caring government. And when he presents his estimates, it will be a presentation of estimates with people at the center of it, not like this government which does not care. And the Prime Minister and Minister for Finance comes to cry crocodile tears when he wants you to believe that he cares. Thank you very much, Mr.